Besides birth, there's another constant that we have that's going to happen to all of us. It's called death. So today I'd like to share a little bit and get some insights from Tom about death and moving into that with a spiritual perspective that may support you on your journey. So, hi, Tom.
Hello, Teresa.
And first, I do want to say a big thanks to all of you around the world who are listening in and tuning in. We appreciate you so very much, no matter where you're at, because we know that time is of an essence, and spending time to listen to us and to also share with your friends and family some of these episodes that may support them. We thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
So with that aside, let's talk about the happy message of death.
Death.
Well,
Oh, my goodness.
it's been coming up. I mean, the last few years, I've had quite a few in my life. I've had, they've come in kind of like, I always heard this when I was young, that death comes in threes. And sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. And so
I think it's an old wives' tale.
You think it's an old wives' tale? Well, it could be, but I have had that happen one time with me. So, but I've noticed for myself that through the years, especially when I didn't have a spiritual awareness or understanding of that soul part of me and how I move with life and how I'm an energy being, I was receiving a lot of messages, a lot of insights and hunches from the other side, from those that have passed on that I didn't recognize fully or understand, but I just went with it. Like one time when my grandfather passed away, that night, I got a download of what to say at his funeral the next day. And I wrote everything out and I went up there and gave a really great, eulogy for him.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I mean, my grandfather and I, we were, I wouldn't say we were super close, but it was a really cool, I felt a gift from him to those that came. So I noticed these days that there's a lot of people in the last couple of years who have lost three sisters. Have one lady I know lost a granddaughter and a son within like a year and a half or so. So like there's a lot of people losing a lot of people right now. So I just kind of wanted to talk about, what to really the perspective of being a soul. So would you like to start off a little bit with that, Tom, about
Well, the first thing that I have to say about all that is death is just a transition. And in fact, as a soul, I'm intelligent energy. I always have been. I always will be. And I'm here on planet Earth to learn and grow. So, and energy, even the scientists say that it cannot be created nor destroyed. It just changes form. It's transformed. Well, I have experienced similar things this year or the last few years, a number of people I know have passed on. I imagine that part of it is the age that I'm getting to. It's kind of that time of life. But what I really like to share is that recently I was at a retreat in Puerto Rico with the Wayshorers College. And one of the techniques that we were practicing, we were taking trips, astro trips, as we call it, to re-experience and remember to the memory bank of our experience and to remember what it was like to transition into a new physical body and what it was like to transition out. So that's pretty far out, so
what's your insights from that? I mean, what did you feel?
Well, the overall feelings that I got from it were that, without going into the details of the lifetimes or anything, it just was that, oh yeah, there's this bigger picture. I felt more at ease, with the whole idea of transitioning in or out. And that, I was just tuned into that feeling of that bigger picture and so forth. Now, having said that, I don't walk around every day thinking about that. I'm living life. I'm enjoying life. I, still experience the same emotions as everybody else, sadness when certain folks, when people pass on that are close to me or, and all that. So, but I must say that I don't have a huge grief over people passing on. I do go through a period of, for lack of a better word, grief, or nice thoughts about folks and what I enjoyed about them and what I didn't enjoy, maybe what I'd have done differently, that kind of a thing. Or the other thing I think I've gotten is that as people pass on, I get back to that bigger picture perspective of, really, why do we make such a big deal out of half the stuff that we get, upset about, especially when it comes to other people? Or why do I get so focused on, certain things that I want to have or do, or, kind of get caught in, because we all move in and we're all going to move out.
Yeah, interesting because I was thinking back to just a couple days ago. Facebook always gives like a memory, right? Of like
Mhm.
5, 4, like 1 year, 2 years, and this went back to I want to say like 8 years ago, when I took my brother's ashes out to Northern California, and we had a ceremony for him out in the open, and released his ashes, and we won't say where because that's actually not you're supposed to do that, but
Yikes.
anyway. And so that just reminded me of, going through that process with him, and which is some of what I do share in my book, The Soulquake Survival Guide. I share my brother's passing and my dad's passing, and just some spiritual awarenesses I have, and just, excuse me, giving you guys and those that read the book insights, on just how it's just really a process, right? So in, recalling and remembering the time frame that I went through with different people, and how, like with my brother, the morning he passed, I went over to my mom's house because he was living with my mom at that time, and she got a clear message from him that, "Mom, I'm okay." And so, that really, for myself at that time, that, of course I was very upset. That was my brother and everything. And, we were both, solemn and crying and etc. because it just had happened, but it gave us peace. And that's, to me, what understanding, like Tom was mentioning about how we're energy, and, we just transition between this body, the next. And it's really the attachment that we have to, excuse me, the attachment we have to those we love, right? Like I loved my brother. And 2 days before my brother died, I woke up in the middle of the night bawling my eyes out and not knowing why, but clearly I was feeling and knowing that he was going to be
Mhm.
leaving. So I was already, mourning that. So, but knowing that, yeah, we never die as a soul. And actually on the other side, and I've heard this from many people too, and myself included, that sometimes we can have a deeper connection to those on the other side versus when we're here in these personalities and having our egos and having our, our issues with people. On the other side, there isn't any of that any longer, because you drop your intellect. It's just your feeling. It's just your, your energy body. So what do you want to say about that, Tom? I feel you
Well,
want to say something.
whatever, where your state of consciousness is at when you pass on is where you're going to be. And, I've talked about in the past how we have a balance between our intellect and our feelings. And our true feelings is what I'm referring to when I say our feelings. And our true feelings are that kind, loving, sharing, want to be a part of things, one with all, perspective, or that's how we feel about things. And that's within our soul. That's how we are as energy. Our intellect is essentially our way of, understanding the world around us and operating here. And our intellect gets programmed. It's in some ways it's just like a computer, and you learn to do things and you learn to move your body a certain way. But when we pass on, of course, from dust to dust, we go back to the body disintegrates and the soul moves out. And really, you can't take your brain with you. But there is probably a spiritual aspect to this idea of mind, so I don't want to negate that. It's just that you don't need your intellect out in the universe. You really operate on your feelings, your impressions, and your inner knowings. It's a different sort of experience, and we can work with those superpowers, as you like to call them. Our four spiritual gifts, our four ways of perceiving, seeing without eyes, hearing without ears, knowing without having a brain, feeling without having, actual nerves in a physical body. So I suppose for me personally, I mean, this is just my opinion, that everything we have here on planet Earth is probably a reflection of something that exists spiritually, or we wouldn't have it. So wherever your state of consciousness is at is what you're going to take with you. And, but, we all have spiritual helpers and angels to guide us through this lifetime. And if we pass on in a confused state, they're going to wait around until we have that aha moment. Oh, yeah, I'm a soul. I was just here to learn and grow. I had a mission, and I'm one with all. And let's go back to home. What comes to mind for me is when I watch some of these YouTube videos on near-death experiences that people have, and how I've said this before, but there's such a commonality, or there's common areas that everyone seems to experience. And one of the key things is they talk about meeting one of their spiritual guides or an angel. They talk about how they become more aware of who they really are again, and the bigger picture of their life as a soul, and sometimes many lives. They become more aware of their purpose, and then they get to this point where they love it where they are because they're truly back home, but they get keen on wanting to come back into their body and finish their mission, so to speak. So, the way I look at it, when people pass on, they've gotten to that point where there's two things. They've either completed their mission, or they've gotten so confused that they need to get back out to the universe and get it all reset again and come back around. But, whatever they're going through, whatever we go through here on planet Earth, we're going to experience some growth. It's just some of us move faster or slower, depending on how we unfold our awareness as the soul nature that we have.
Right. Another thing that comes to mind too is how there's oftentimes waves of people that come in at certain times to have certain experiences. So, like, say the baby boomers, that was a huge thing. And I don't know about worldwide, but definitely in America. And so there was a lot of babies born at that time. And so, and it's, obviously increased as we've gone along through the years and the decades, where now we have, the most people ever on the planet right now. And so when you look at that population and how it's expanded, and then I just looked up online before we hit the record button, and it actually said that worldwide there's more births than deaths, but in America there's actually a decline in birth versus it didn't say death, it just said decline in birth. So I think that's because a lot of people are having problems with fertility and getting pregnant, and who knows, what the reasoning behind those are. But I think going back to, people passing and having that experience myself so many times in this lifetime, and as we all will, right? Because those, it's usually your parents, your grandparents, and if you have a big family that might have some siblings go or whatever, or friends, because I've had friends that have left also. But in recognizing for myself that since I have this awareness, I can stay more relaxed with it. And I can also know that, and also tune into for myself, the soul versus who they were. So an example of this is recently Tom and I were at an event out at the Wayshowers College Center. And we did a technique where we really tuned into the soul of the person sitting in front of us without the personality. And then we gave a reading around what we were picking up on as far as, attributes and maybe some things they can work on, and then an overall impression. So when and from that experience, it led me into recognizing more so that how each of us are just a soul, and we're all going through all kinds of experiences for our own growth. And that when I can differentiate between that person and what they're going through, and oh my God, what is that all about, versus what do I feel with that soul? And so it gave me a deeper perspective again of death, and that, as we're all souls, but we're all here on to experience different things at different times in our existence as a soul. And so that really, for me, gave me a lot of, like I said, clarity and just understanding at a different level about death. What do you want to share about that, Tom, and the experience we had?
Well, it's a great technique because, what when I look at someone sometimes, that what I see can be deceiving, or, if I get caught in judging what I'm looking at, then I can miss out on really tuning into the positive qualities of that soul and really tune into the areas they have mastered. But equally, I can become aware of the areas where they may have some areas where they need to, expand their awareness or grow. I don't want to say pitfalls, but areas where they're working on, and that helps me tune into how I might be able to be of service or just accept people a little bit more. That if I can accept myself more, accept others around me, it's just easier to stay relaxed. But the key thing with for me is life after death is that there's life before death, there's life while we're here, and there's life after we transition out, or we shed these bodies. And I think one of the things I love to share, you see these shows where there's some folks that are trying to freeze people, and they can bring them back, in a couple of 100 years or 1,000 years from now. Maybe they'll thaw them out and they'll fix whatever physical problem they had. And, it strikes me like, if you were a soul, if I'm a soul, I am a soul. I don't think I'd be that interested in going back to my 1,000-year-old body. Who knows what people will look like then and how we'll evolve. And
well, and also all your family are gone.
Well, not only that,
more than likely,
you're without answering all the questions that might be there, like, will they still have the memories and all this? But we have a perfect system. We, as souls, or as we're growing and expanding and rising in our levels of awareness, and everybody's going to make it. So I don't know how many programs do you hear where people say, the truth is we're all going to make it.
Right.
It's just a matter of being patient, and spiritual growth by the inch is a cinch. But, there can be no competition in spiritual growth. Well, there isn't. Competition's a fact of life here on planet Earth. And it's, we need not to get caught in it. But spiritually, there's no competition between you and me and you in unfolding your awareness. So that takes a bit of the heat off and a little bit of the pressure off.
Absolutely.
That's just a concept of planet Earth. So we all grow in awareness over time. And what a perfect system we have. I'll put that out there for folks. Isn't it really a perfect system? The true me is energy. The true me can exist in what we refer to as other dimensions. I come here to learn and grow. Possibly we slow down and we get into the material world so that we can really, the whole game here is to be able to deal with lots of different levels of consciousness here on planet Earth. We're not going to see eye to eye with everybody, and have those learning experiences, expand our inner authority, expand our self-confidence, expand our sense of attraction to the things we'd really like to enjoy more of life. Expand that idea that I have the power within me, as opposed to be chasing that outer power so much. Anything get stimulated there?
No, I think that feels really complete for myself, actually. And I think that that's a good place to wind this up. So yeah, we just wanted to come on today and just share a little bit about being a soul, and, and death, and that and the transition we go through. We're all going to do it. And we hope that this might help you if you're going through this at the moment with any fears of what's coming, or any contemplating of loved ones that have passed on, and where their soul is, and do they need saving and praying for, or whatever. Like, we hope that this maybe gives you some solace to work through those time frames that we all have to endure.
So what are your thoughts about saving and praying for your loved ones?
Well, no one needs to be saved. We're all fine. But again, that's a religious concept, right? The prayer, the saving. So if that's,
there's some truth in it, in that,
yeah.
If we think of the folks we were working with here fondly, and mentally send them love and release them, it's great to say, I love you and I release you. And that allows them to, expand and grow, go back home and reset themselves. And we all have everything we need. We already have our own team of guidance. So
I like that you said that about releasing them, because I have a friend whose husband passed away several years ago, and she is very connected with him on the other side. And she's told me that there's been times when, especially when he first passed it, and because she was, obviously mourning, he was coming around a lot, right? But then over the time, there was one time he came back and visited her, and he said, she was talking to him, whatever. And he says, look, I'm busy. Like, I got things to do on the other side. So, and he doesn't come back around as much. So that's one thing too to keep in mind is, like, we're doing our things over here, but in spirit realm, we're also interacting, doing things. And so, but we can hold people here and, bind them here by our,
longing for them,
yearning for them. And that it's natural. Believe me, I've been through it many times with all the deaths I've had with my dad, my brother, and other people. But now I recognize that there's a certain point where, okay, I need to go and, have my life, and they're going to need to go where they need to go in the spirit realm and do their things too.
Yeah. I wanted to, bring that up, that I myself, when some folks that I know that I was close to have passed on, I did get some messages from them pretty much early on, right after they passed on. And I felt, one or two come around occasionally. But the key thing is that if they come around, just tell them to work through your guidance, through your spiritual helpers, through your angels. That's all the same thing, your guidance, all those three words I used. And that way, there's a buffer there. And it's wonderful that we can connect with, folks once they passed on. But the key is to respect them enough and release them enough so that you can carry on with your business and they can carry on with their business. And in the long run, we're all one. We're all going to be together again anyway, one way or another. And there's plenty more folks to get involved with while you're here. That's what I found. So
absolutely, Tom.
Yeah, I think it's all real. And I noticed the same thing, was that over time, they seem to move out a bit. And so that's all normal. It's great. It's great to give them messages or receive messages from them. You can do that pretty easily, and I guess it's like anything. It really just depends on what your motives are. If your motives are to hang on to them for your own security, they will feel that energy, and they'll be you're hanging on to them,
well, it'll connect them.
Yeah, it'll connect them, so just like when you yearn for people, I mean, this is a little bit of another topic, but really it's the same thing. If you're yearning for somebody else in your family, they could be across the country or overseas or something, or a past loved one that's still around, people will feel, or your mother or father or your kids, they can feel it. And one of the ways that you can feel it is you sort of just space out all of a sudden, or they come to mind.
Well, for me, they come in dreams.
Okay.
So I've had both of my daughters, which neither one they're disconnected from me at the moment for, God, almost 7 years now. And so, yeah, they come around in dreams. And the times I've known that they've gone through like things that have been intense, they've gone through in their lives the last couple of years, they've shown up in my dreams during that time frame. So I know that they were connecting in a different way versus in the physical. So.
Well, anyways, it's been great to share with everybody here, Tate.
Yeah, what an interesting topic of being a soul in a body, boy, and then living and dying. So thank you all again for listening to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. And until next week, well, you know what?
Remember
that
life
is
too short
to be
not be enthusiastic
about your unique journey. To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.